The Australian Agency for International Development, or AusAID, is the Australian government's overseas aid program. It was formerly known as the Australian Development Assistance Agency, ADAA, upon its creation under the Whitlam Labor government. It was then renamed the Australian Development Assistance Bureau, ADAB, under the Fraser Liberal government, and later on in 1987 was called the Australian International Development Assistance Bureau, AIDAB, under the Hawke government. It was given its current name in 1995 by the Keating government. AusAID was created in 1974 under the name of the Australian Development Assistance Agency, ADAA, to execute a function that had been the responsibility of several departments. It was formed with the aims of reducing poverty in developing countries and achieving sustainable development. In 1974, Australia was impacted by catastrophic cyclones that devastated several cities. The economy was inevitably affected, and they needed a systematic method of handling the crisis. This contributed to the organization's creation. AusAID is a federally funded organization that works in partnership with other Australian federal and state government departments. Its aim is to assist developing countries in reducing poverty and achieving sustainable development. It achieves its goals along the lines of achieving Australia's national interests of maintaining regional peace, stability, and prosperity, often at high-risk environments. The organization's main auxiliary objectives are to improve health and education services, fight corruption, improve security, engage in the fight against HIV and AIDS, and improve the efficiency of the government organizations. The organization focuses on providing assistance to the Asia-Pacific region, as a majority of the world's poor reside in this area, and nonetheless receive less than a third of total aid flows. In addition, AusAID provides selective relief assistance to Africa and the Middle East. AusAID contracts aid work to Australian and also international companies, which use their expertise to instigate aid projects and train local people to continue the projects following the termination of the contracts. The organization also funds non-profit organizations such as Oxfam to provide assistance in developing countries. When responding to emergencies, staff of AusAID are sent to the affected areas to offer immediate assistance. It also provides funding to international organizations such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, as well as to UNICEF through the United Nations to help overseas countries undergoing a crisis. When improving the effectiveness of government organizations, AusAID coordinates with the local governments of the country with the objective of improving the way economic and community services are delivered. The funding Australia allocates towards aid through AusAID amounts to approximately 1% of federal government expenditure. AusAID has been effective in achieving its objective of improving healthcare services, as its aid effort has contributed to wiping out polio from the Pacific. Its funding of the construction of the Mai Thuan Bridge in Vietnam's Mekong Delta region has benefited nearly 500,000 people living below the poverty line. Australia's aid has contributed to much of the improvements in standard of living, as well as the potential for sustainable development over the past 40 years. The average life expectancy in developing countries has increased by 20 years, adult illiteracy has almost halved, and maternal mortality has decreased by 50%. The main world economic issue which AusAID is involved in is the global recession. As the global recession has significant implications for developing countries, AusAID is committed to responding effectively to this crisis. The recession directly threatens progress in poverty reduction and achievements made in development in developing countries. The recession has stimulated rising unemployment, reduced trade and investment, increased poverty, caused social unrest, reduced access to credit, particular vulnerabilities for women and children, and has deteriorated health and education outcomes. In response, AusAID will contribute to global strategies for restoring world growth and minimizing the impact of the global recession under the leadership of the G20 and other international organizations. AusAID will support fiscal stimuli and monetary expansion, as restoring growth in developed countries will benefit developing countries. They will also aim to restore trade growth and resist protectionism, expand official financing by meeting official development assistance pledges, and increase International Monetary Fund and multilateral development bank resources. AusAID's aid response will give priority to generating employment and restoring growth, supporting the delivery of basic services, and protecting the vulnerable. The 2009 to 2010 budget initiatives in rural development, food security, and economic infrastructure will boost the impacts of existing aid programs in infrastructure and enterprise development, thus generating employment and restoring growth. Emphasis will be placed on labor-intensive public works programs where alternative employment opportunities are scarce. Programs to increase employment opportunities will be targeted to groups most affected by the recession. Support for technical and vocational training will also continue to be expanded. AusAID also aims to increase aid spending in education and health, as it will have a positive impact on society's most vulnerable and also have an effect on the long-term human capacity in developing countries. AusAID will also assist partner countries in ensuring aid spending is effectively targeted towards minimizing recession impacts on the delivery of essential services such as health and education. Appropriate actions to support these services, such as increased school-based grants and funding to maintain pharmaceutical supplies, will take place.